Classes in session. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. And class is really in session because I'm in my classroom right now. And I'm doing simultaneously, as I am doing this podcast, I am doing a live so I can answer questions as we go. And everybody can sort of give their opinion or throw in their questions and talking about Metro Prep Academy and what we're doing here and how we're doing it. I was thinking about doing this podcast a little while ago, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do it properly, and I don't know necessarily if I want to admit all of the stuff that I'm going through at this time. But then I thought, yes, doing a podcast about fear is probably one of the most important things that you can possibly do. Understanding that doing something you are scared of has a level of power that you've never seen before. And I think to talk about what I'm afraid of and to talk about all those things is by far the most important thing, right? So, guys, listen. I've been a teacher for 22, going on 23 years. And right now, Ryan and I and an amazing team at Metro have helped save Metro Prep and are starting this school. Even though we have these beautiful foundations, I am starting in a vice principal role, director of admissions role. Ryan is principal. He was vice principal for a very long time. And we are taking everything head on. We are taking the things that had beauty and that had use from sort of previous years. And then we're making brand new things as we go along, and including new ideas and including new possibilities as we start this process. And that's what's terrifying, in all fairness. What's terrifying is the idea of the unknown, the idea of not doing things the way you've always done them, because for the most part, that kind of monotony breeds a level of comfort, right? I joke all the time, guys, and I say monotony is the spice of life. I love it. You want to know why I love it? Because I know what to expect and it makes my heart like calm. But that's why we jump into monotony. And then when something crazy happens, we don't know how to handle it, right? So now at the beginnings of transitioning into all of this, and it's really not change that's a problem, it's the transition, it's all kind of scary. So I am going to do podcasts and lives from here, and I'm going to be wickedly honest about every single step we are taking, what's happening. I would love it if you guys give me any feedback that you have in the comment section, because I think this is the most important thing to talk about, is talking about this kind of transition and how terrified I am. Guys, I am terrified right now. I'm terrified and excited at the same time. I'm going to give you a metaphor. When I learned to surf, I always wanted to surf because I love the ocean and I love what's in it. And always, let's be honest, surfers just look cool, right? And I learned how to surf. As I was learning, there was something, if anybody's a surfer in here, there is something terrifying, like mortally terrifying. Like at any moment, if you've been turned by a wave, you know that it's scary and you're high up and you're going fast. And at the exact same moment, it's this level of calm I've never felt, right? And that's how I feel right now. Starting this school and being at the precipice of this beautiful thing, I feel that exact same feeling, right? And now I need to take it step by step. Now, there's a lot of things about starting a new school, especially in Toronto, that you have to take into account that I never wanted to know, guys. Insurance, I don't want to know about it. Insurance, photocopiers, picture day, organizing forms for class trips. I mean, all of these things, these administrative things that I got to just like segment out of somebody else handled it, right? Now, sitting where I'm sitting, what I realize is this: you need to sort of understand the big picture. If you're going to actually run a school, right? If you're going to actually run a school, you have to understand all the moving parts. You don't have to be an expert at all the moving parts. But I think in a lot of cases, people get really good at their narrowly focused job and just do that, and nobody else does it. And I think that has some problems. It has problems kind of in the same way. This is where I'm envisioning it because I've spent so many days in the emergency room with my mom. It's kind of like having specialists. It's kind of like having specialists in the medical field, right? Heart specialists, neurologists, nephrologists, whatever. They have these specialist fields, but nobody's really taking account of the big picture. And if you can't take account of the big picture, the system itself will start to fracture some of it, because you fix the heart, you hurt the kidneys. You fix the kidneys, you can hurt, inflammation issues, whatever the situation is, right? So I need to jump into this, even though I don't necessarily want to know everything. And again, we have a beautiful team that's going to become experts, that's going to become the cardiologist and the nephrologist. However, you need to have somebody sitting at the top. You need to have somebody as seeing the whole picture. Does that make sense? You need to have a whole picture. And right now, I'm telling you right now, the whole picture is overwhelming, right? I got curriculum, I got teachers, I got back end stuff of website creation and all that kind of stuff. I have admissions process, which by the way, I'm completely changing, and I'm putting that TikTok up tomorrow or up later today. All of these things that are there and all of these balls in the air. Right now, it feels like a bit like a tidal wave because I don't have anything on lock. But right now is the time to get it on lock. And even better, now's the very important time to understand what are the most important things to have on lock. And here's the hard part. I've been a teacher in the same school for 23 years, right? There is no way that 23 years has been perfection, but we all have been socialized. Oh, you guys are going to love it. It's going to come fully around to my name. We have all been socialized to do things in a certain way. I have been painting today for everybody looking at my hands right now. We're painting green. Socialize in a certain way. And metros always kind of run in a very specific, method. And the hard part right now is unlearning that. Not throwing it all out, but unlearning, okay, what works, what's powerful for today that maybe or what isn't powerful today that was powerful 20 years ago, right? Everything has to change, and everything always changes. So a truly brilliant person, which I do not claim to be, a truly brilliant person isn't there because they know everything. A truly brilliant person is there and is brilliant because they understand they don't. And they understand how to differentiate from good ideas and bad ideas. They understand when to put their ego down, when to put their idea down, when to listen better. And I'm getting better at that. Now, I'm getting better. I'm not great, guys. I'm not great, but I'm getting better at that. And I think that's the very important part. So right now at the beginning of this school, right, I have all of these amazing people in different places, in different parts of the country, for crying out loud, trying to bring in new ideas. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'm like, nah, I don't want that one. I don't like that one, right? I don't like that idea, or that idea conflicts with the stuff that's already been socialized in my head. So I got to figure out how to put that stuff down. And Ryan does this beautifully. Ryan, I think, is better at this than I so far. I'm getting better. I'm getting better, but he's better at it so far. But I'm definitely going to be talking about things like admissions. I'm talking about things like what kind of culture do we want to create? I'm talking about things like this school is going to be great, but it doesn't have to be perfect for every single student. There is no way to do that. There is no way that one school Can be perfect for every student's needs. Here's the key, I think. The key is figuring out what can you do well, how can you do that, and be honest about what you can do and how you can do it. Does that make sense? Because I think so many schools, private and otherwise, promise the moon. Well, they promise the moon. They promise the moon because they want you to come to their school. And I don't even mean that in a negative way, like, oh, just pay us the money. And no. I honestly believe that most schools are understand or and want to understand their students and want to give them everything they possibly can give. Here's the problem. I don't know how many schools are really being truthful with themselves about what they're good at and what they're not. Does that make sense? I think you need to understand what your school does well and what it doesn't do well. And sometimes you need to bolster what it doesn't do well and also understand, okay, but maybe that can't be our thing, because you can't be all things. If you can't be all things, right? If you can't be all things, admit it. Admit it. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Admit it. I honestly even believe that parents would appreciate that so much more and might even be more likely to send their kid there because they're like, "Oh, then you're not trying to pretend that you're everything." No. No, I'm not. I'll tell you what our core values are. Are you ready for it? Because I think this could be a tagline. We're a school of character. Bracket S. You with me? We are a school of character, bracket S, meaning the point of this school is what's in here. And what's in here is so unique and so powerful and so full of potential that we have to make space for the S. We're a school of characters, right? That's who we are. That makes sense to me. Teaching the student, not the curriculum, makes sense to me. Understanding the student and what they need and how you can pull that out and how you can increase what they're good at or no, they're not so good at, and big them up for the things they're great at. We're a school of characters. That's where we start, right? And I understand marks matter. Listen, marks are going to matter for everybody. Why? Because that's how you get into university. Here's my problem. Let's all admit right now, standardized tests don't work. People are throwing them out left, right, and center, number one. Number two, marks and marking systems differ from school to school. They are somewhat subjective. The way you teach to a test is somewhat subjective, right? But admitting that is okay. Can we just admit that? There's no objective way to do anything. I just don't think it exists. Stop admitting this pretense of objectivity. And then you can start to understand that getting at learning is a process, not an end result. And if it's a process, not an end result, then the marks are important and you will allocate them. But my judgment, this is people in high school constantly will come into Metro and they'll say, how many kids go off to university? What's your percentage? Right? And our percentage is very high. Here's my problem. You're judging us by the wrong metric. If you want to judge me as a teacher or Metro as a school as we start this amazing adventure, don't judge us by how many kids get into university, because to be honest, that is pretty consistently accessible. Judge me, judge our ability to educate, judge our ability to empower by how those kids do when they leave my classroom. How do they do in college, university? How do they do if they've started their own business? How do they do? That is where judgment lies, not did they get into U of T? Did they get into U of T? That's not the end. Otherwise, schools just be handing out 97s. That's not how you judge a school. When I say getting into university is accessible, I mean mark wise. Number one. Number two, we're also in Canada. Like when I'm talking to you right now, I'm speaking from Ontario, and our educational system is very subsidized post secondary education. So on average, tuition tuition to an Ontario school is 7 grand a year. That's accessible. I don't think it's perfect. And there's OSAP and there's loans and all of those things. There's Ontario grants, but 7 grand a year is accessible. It's not like the United States, right? $7,000 a year is not like asking for $50,000 like in the United States. Now, does that mean you'd have to work for it sometimes, depending on your family? Absolutely. Absolutely. Ontario actually gives out Ontario based grants that charge no interest until 6 months after you graduate. So you can have access to that money too if your family doesn't meet certain economic criteria. So we have lots of avenues for that. I am not claiming perfection, but I am saying way better than the United States, right? Um, Now, if you want to live away from home, that's different. That's different. The bulk of money that you are going to spend is going to come in having your own place, right? Having your own place, living away from home, paying for your own food, all that kind of stuff, right? This isn't my office. Everybody's like talking about this isn't my office, this is still my classroom. My office is yet to be created. I'm going to show you as I create my office. I have some good ideas, right? But the goal of this, of here, is to prepare kids. And the number one way, again, if it's a school of character, my number one way of preparing students has to start at here. How do we start with their heart? How do we start with their character? How do we start with their confidence, with their esteem? How do we empower them? Because if we can empower students, they will do amazing things. Just get the heck out of their way. If I empower students, then when I sit down and I truly empower them, and I sit down and I say you have to take a test, their anxiety doesn't take over. Because guess what? They know how to tackle that. They know the mental game that needs to be played to do so, not just memorizing what the dates of the wars and who the most important people were. That's the goal. So if that's the goal of education, I'm not going to judge kids on the basis of the marks they have coming in and the standardized tests that they wrote, because I am going to assume we're not at their potential yet. How do I know how do I see their potential? How do I see what they can do? Because what they can do is so much more important than what they've done. And I'm so exhausted. I'm so exhausted of judging kids on the basis of what they've done already at a school that I never even was a part of. And I don't know the culture. I don't know their subjective ways of marking. I don't know their home life. I don't know anything. So I'm not going to judge them based on that. I want to judge them based on what they want and how hard they're willing to work. Also understand, you guys have been watching me a long enough time to understand I'm not handing out participation ribbons up in here. I'm not. You have to get the job done. Right? If it's grade 9 math, you have to get the job done. I'm not just passing you through to pass you through so you don't have to repeat it. But what I will do and what we will do is figure out every conceivable way to help you get grade 9 math. That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. Because I'm not in the business of passing for the sake of passing, but I'm also not in the business of a grade being the only indicator of what you can accomplish. It's just what you've already accomplished. That's it. You have so many more great things to do. And creating space to do that is incredibly important. And there's a lot of kids would say, oh, I just all the core classes that you have to take, and you have to take, and you have to take a math, and you have to take a science, you have to take a history. Yeah, Yes, I also believe in that. I believe having a well rounded student and a well rounded soul is incredibly important. I believe that the courses you're great at, you should take, and the courses that you're not good at, you should still figure out how to better yourself in them. You don't just chuck them away like they're wasteful of your time. No, you need to do everything. And you need to have a structure and a system that enables you to do everything. That's the point. And we get lost in literacy tests and interim marks and midterm report cards and blah, blah, blah. And we lose sight of empowering the student. Having said all of that, guys, I I have looked back at my career, and there's many a student who I didn't reach. I know, I know. There's students that I never got to. I never figured out what I needed to tap into. I never, whether it be their home life, whether it be their academic history, whether it be a learning difference, I never figured out. I haven't, there are students that I haven't gotten at. And that's why at this school, we have a bunch of different teachers. They don't always teach the same way as I do, right? Name of the school is Metro Preparatory Academy, right? Metropolitan Preparatory Academy. Listen, I wish I could get to them all. I wish I could get to them all, right? I want to make sure that kids can really understand how powerful they are and can really understand that getting a 62 in math isn't the end of the world. A 62 in math, given the right effort, could be everything in the world. A 62 in math with a kid with maybe some learning difficulties when it came to math, maybe some, elementary school trauma when it comes to teaching methodology, when it comes to, they just think so far out of the box that they can't quite get to how they can conceptualize math. A 62 in math for that kid is freaking, you throw a parade. Throw a parade. But a 62 in math, when you don't do any work, you don't come for extra help, you barely study, well, I'm not impressed. Because it's a school, Metro Prep Academy is a school of character. Did you come to the table with everything you got? I'm throwing you a parade. But I'm not going to pat you on the head for a 92 if I know you didn't give it your all. Right? I'm not. I'm not giving you a pat on the head unless I know you've put your heart and soul into the game. And I think that part is incredibly important. And that part people aren't talking about enough. We're constantly talking about the end of the end result. And this is where, if we were serious about mental health in this country, we would start talking about how mental health is really talking about, in a serious way, outside of mental health medical conditions. The foundations of mental health is about esteem, confidence, and empowerment. That's it. Esteem, confidence, and empowerment. Start there. Schools should start there. It's a school of character, right? I think all of this are the things that I can help change and personify and expand at this school. Some of you guys are asking what school it is. It's called Metro Prep Academy, Metropolitan Preparatory Academy. It's located in Toronto. This school has been open for 42 years. And recently, in March, actually, my mentor and the owner of this school, Wayne McKelvey, passed very suddenly. And then very suddenly after that, we were told it was going to close. Thank you, Dean. And looking at that, Ryan and I looked at each other and said, no, thank you. Percentages of kids that go to university, and again, I'll answer it. It's easy. It's like 98%, 99%. Now, Metro Prep is an academic school, meaning that we are a preparatory school for college and university. That's the point, right? Um, that does not mean we don't have kids who go to college. That does not mean that we don't have kids that go into the trades. We do. We absolutely do. But we're prepping for what is expected at sort of a university level. And funnily enough, a lot of kids have been told up until they come here what they can and can't accomplish, what they can and can't do. I've had kids sit here in grade 10 and 11, and their moms look me in the face and say, well, for their school, they put them in general courses in grade 9. I'm like, what? They put them in general courses before they even saw what that kid could do at high school? And again, I'm not saying that general courses don't have their place. What I am saying is you took away options from that kid. You told that kid what they can and can't do, like an applied course. Yeah. You told that kid what they can and can't do in grade 9? What? What a crock of garbage. And I've had those same kids that came here, maybe did an extra year here, and went off to do incredible things at colleges and universities. Absolutely. Tons of discrimination in different courses. They look at you and they go, oh, you're good at this, this, and this. Oh, what were your marks in grade 8? You're over there. Please line up to the left. Oh, you got those marks? Please line up to the right. What a crock of garbage. What a waste. And again, none of this is saying that the trades and college aren't amazing avenues for kids and for individuals to go down. What I am saying to you is this: I'll be damned if I let one of my students be pigeonholed, be restricted, be limited by me saying you have to do this. You are only capable of doing this channel. Forget you. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And there's a lot of kids, guys, and most people that are in this chat right now are teachers. You understand that kids blossom and they click in at different ages. Some of those kids click in grade 2, grade 6, grade 9. Some of those kids click in grade 11. And if you've given up on them and you've said they're only capable of that, whatever that is, and you've closed all other doors, you've limited their potential. You've limited their greatness. What a waste. What an absolute waste. I have taught kids that are definitely on the autism spectrum, that definitely lean towards a side of autism that is heavily judged in our society. And those kids, they've gone on to accomplish insanely amazing things. How dare we, at some point, relegate them to the periphery? How dare we? How dare we? Right? Dyslexia is another way, right? A lot of kids aren't even, if they haven't got tested, we don't even know what kind of dyslexia. How can we help mitigate it? What can we do over here? So if we can't do any of those things and we just ignore it, well, then you just judge that kid for not being able to read and write properly, not smart enough. What a waste. It takes time, it takes work, it takes many different perspectives to understand who a student is, what they are capable of, and what challenges they need to overcome. Because I also promise you this. Kids, everybody, myself included, need to overcome something. I promise you that. I promise you we all have learning differences and difficulties. And what my age bracket would have done is figured out, okay, I'm not going to do any of that, or I'm going to do this a little bit more in order to overcome. We never got addressed. We never got helped. We never got any strategies because we were never identified. Now I will also see this. I do not believe in identifying learning difficulties and not working on them. Dyslexia, let's take that for an example. Somebody who is dyslexic, I had a student who was horribly dyslexic, probably one of the worst um, sort of levels that I have seen. Like, he struggled every single day with reading and writing. And you know what this kid did? He started here in grade 9. You know what this kid did? Every single summer for 2 months, he went to a specialist, like a kind of like a camp, but it was a learning center that focused on students with dyslexia every single summer. And that kid was able to, I mean, the difference I saw from grade 9 to grade 12 was insane. And that kid went off to college, graduated, and is doing amazing things. That's what we need. That's what we need. We need to stop saying, oh, well, you have this thing, cool, we're not going to make you do it then. No, absolutely not. Whatever's holding you back, isn't that my job, the school's job, to figure out how to make it better, how to increase it, how to make you better than you were yesterday? Isn't that, if that's not my job, I don't understand what is. Truly. That needs to be my job. So when I look at the big picture and I look at all the things, I can feel overwhelmed. I can feel overwhelmed because I'm thinking of all of these things at this point, and then I'm also thinking of all the other things that I have to do and how I have to do them, and what that's going to play like. And I think that's incredibly important. And I got to do big picture. But what I'm talking about right now, that's how you change worlds. And I'll tell you one other thing, and this is one other thing that's incredibly important. Teachers, the student, and their families need to be on the same page. I am not a second parent, but I do see your kid a lot. And if we're going to have, there needs to be a team there. 100%. And that's why I think so importantly that parents need to be involved in everything in their child's education. Because if we're not all on the same page, right, there's going to be a problem. Things are going to fall through the cracks. You need it. They need to go home and hear the same thing and then come to school and hear the same thing here. By the way, I'm not taught, because a lot of people are like, well, politically. No. You know how many parents, you guys know I'm not the most conservative person in the world. I have a beautiful parents who I've taught their kids years ago, and they consistently ask me, Joanna, can we just we want to, you to run for the Conservative Party. We're going to fund your, like, just please. And we might disagree politically, but what we both understand, and the beauty of it is, I never, ever, ever would enforce any kind of political opinion on my students, number one. Number two, my job is to make them intelligent, critical thinkers that are capable of making amazing arguments, and even better, standing up against me and throwing down with me. Brilliant. That's my job. My job isn't to make kids think like me. What a waste. My job is to allow kids, to empower kids to think intelligently for themselves. That's why I want this school to be a school of character and characters. That's what's going to be different. I have admissions lined up. I have, interviews lined up. I want to make this school the most empowering, powerful place for students that I possibly can. And hopefully, I don't get too anxious and too overwhelmed while I'm trying to create it. but I do appreciate all of you and all of your comments and some criticisms and ideas, because that's the best way we're going to get anywhere, right? The best way we're going to get anywhere is by having multiple people sit at the table. I know. And some people will say, Joanna, private schools aren't for everybody. I 100% get it. It's 100% true. And I fell into this private school kind of by accident. And I'm watching with almost a planned, systematic focus the Ontario government gutting more and more education funding. I'm watching it happen real time. I would love to be able to change that. But I started watching that happen, for those who are Ontario, under Mike Harris. And I think it's incredibly important that we start to understand that the system we have is being broken purposefully. And this, although not a perfect alternative and not accessible to all, is something I can control, I can wield, I can shape. Oh, yeah. Mike Harris really started this entire thing. But for now, I am going to say goodbye to my podcast, which I have been filming at the exact same time. I am going to come over and speak more on this TikTok live so I can answer some questions. And for everybody that's listening to my podcast, I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Dismissed.